Picture this. You wake up Monday morning and the first thought in your head is not about your life. It is about someone else's schedule, someone else's deadline, someone else's priorities. You check the time, calculate how long you have before you need to be somewhere you did not choose, doing something you did not design, for a number that was decided in a room you were not in. And you do all of this not because something went wrong in your life, but because everything went exactly according to plan. You studied, you graduated, you applied, you got the offer, you accepted, you showed up, and you keep showing up, dependably, professionally, completely. And yet somewhere underneath the routine, beneath the performance reviews and the salary deposits and the health benefits and the sense of stability that everyone around you says you should be grateful for, there is a question that will not go away, a quiet one. The kind you do not say out loud because it sounds ungrateful or naive or like something a person says before making a terrible mistake. The question is simply this: is this actually the deal I wanted, or is this the deal I was told to want? Because there is a difference. And most people spend decades not examining that difference, not because they are stupid, not because they lack ambition, but because the system they are inside of was never designed to be examined. It was designed to be repeated. This is the employee trap, and it is not a trap in the dramatic, obvious sense. It does not look like a cage. It looks like a career. It looks like progress. It looks like the responsible choice, which is exactly what makes it so effective at keeping people inside it for so long. So here is the real question underneath all this. Not, should I quit my job? That is not the point. The real question is, why do so many people who work their entire lives, who work hard, who work consistently, who do everything right, end up with so little financial freedom to show for it? Why does the relationship between effort and outcome seem to break down so completely over time? And what is the invisible architecture of that breakdown? Let us start with what time actually is in the context of income. When you sell your time, which is what employment at its core is, you are agreeing to a very specific transaction. You give hours, you receive money. The hours are gone. The money hopefully covers your life. And the next week the transaction resets. You have new hours to sell. You sell them again. The money comes again. The cycle continues. This sounds simple. It is. And that simplicity is both its appeal and its deepest flaw. Because here's what most people never think about. Time is the only resource that cannot be produced, recovered, or expanded. Every other resource in a financial life can be multiplied. Money can compound. Skills can be leveraged. Relationships can be built. Ideas can scale. But time moves in one direction, at one speed, for everyone. And every hour sold is an hour that is permanently gone. Not just from your account, but from your existence. When you structure your entire financial life around selling hours, you are not just choosing a job, you are choosing a ceiling. A ceiling defined by how many hours you can physically work multiplied by the rate someone else has decided your hours are worth. That ceiling is real, and for most people in traditional employment it is far lower than they ever consciously calculated. Now consider a different structure, one where money flows not because of hours worked today, but because of something built or owned previously. A system, an asset, something that continues to produce value even when you are not actively present, not as a fantasy, but as a category of economic reality that exists and that has always existed. The question is not whether it exists, it is why so few people ever move toward it. And this is where the psychology becomes interesting. The first interpretation most people have of the employment trap is a moral one. They believe the solution is simply to work harder, get promoted, earn more. If you are not where you want to be, the reasoning goes, it is because you have not yet earned your way there. More effort, more output, more years. And eventually, the system rewards you. This interpretation feels right because it has some truth in it. Hard work does compound, skills do accumulate, careers do progress, but this model contains an assumption that almost no one examines, that the rewards for your effort will eventually exceed the ceiling imposed by the structure itself, that at some point selling your time will produce enough surplus to actually change your life. For most people it does not. Not because they did not work hard enough, But because the structure of employment is not designed to make employees wealthy, it is designed to make them productive. Those are not the same goal, and confusing them is expensive. The second interpretation is lifestyle. Work hard, earn well, enjoy the results. Buy the things that make effort feel worthwhile. The car, the apartment, the vacations, the restaurants, the clothes that signal to the world and to yourself that your sacrifices are producing something real. This is lifestyle inflation, and it is one of the most effective traps in the modern financial world, not because it is dishonest, but because it feels like success. Every upgrade feels earned. Every purchase feels like evidence that the system is working. But what is actually happening is that income and expenses are rising in parallel, and the gap between them, the gap where financial freedom lives, stays permanently narrow. The income goes up. The life expands to meet it, and the number of months you could survive without a paycheck stays roughly the same, year after year. The third interpretation, and this is the one that changes everything for the people who eventually escape the loop, is structural. Not how hard are you working, not how much are you spending, but what is your income attached to? Is it attached to your hours, which are finite and non-renewable, or is it attached to something that continues to produce value beyond your active presence? This is the shift that the employee trap is specifically designed to prevent you from making, not through conspiracy, but through comfort, through convenience, through the extraordinary psychological ease of knowing that on the 15th and the 30th of every month, a number arrives in your account without requiring you to think about it. That reliability is real, and it is genuinely valuable, but it comes with a cost that almost never appears on any statement. The cost is optionality. The cost is the slow, steady erosion of the space in which different thinking becomes possible. Charlie Munger spent his career studying how systems shape behavior, and one observation he returned to repeatedly was the way incentives, even well-intentioned ones, quietly distort the judgment of intelligent people over time. The incentive structure of employment is designed to reward presence, loyalty, and consistency. Those are not bad things, but they are not the same things that produce financial freedom. And when a person spends decades being rewarded for presence and loyalty, they slowly become less capable of thinking in the categories that freedom requires: ownership, leverage, asymmetry, patience. Not because they lost intelligence, but because the system they were inside of never asked them to practice those things. Now let us talk about what time really costs in a career. Consider someone at the beginning of their working life. They are 23, 24 years old. They have roughly 4 decades of productive years ahead of them. And during those decades, the most valuable thing they possess is not their salary. It is their time horizon. The sheer number of years available for compounding, financial, intellectual, relational, is an asset of almost incalculable value. But the employment structure asks them to trade that asset away, incrementally, beginning immediately, not in a single dramatic moment, in 40-hour increments, week after week, year after year. And with each increment traded, the remaining horizon shrinks. The compounding window narrows. The options that were available at 23 become progressively less available, not because of anything that went wrong, but because of the ordinary accumulation of time sold. This is the hidden cost that no salary negotiation ever puts on the table. Because how do you price 4 decades of your own compounding? How do you evaluate the opportunity cost of spending your highest energy, highest plasticity years executing someone else's vision rather than developing your own? Most people never calculated, because the system never asked them to, and because the question, once genuinely considered, is uncomfortable in a way that daily routine is specifically designed to prevent. Here is something worth sitting with. The people who build genuine financial independence, not just high incomes but actual freedom, almost universally have one thing in common. It is not a specific industry, it is not a particular talent, it is not luck in any consistent form. It is that at some point in their financial life, they stopped measuring success purely in terms of what they were earning and started measuring it in terms of what they were building, what they were accumulating, what was growing in their absence. They made the conceptual shift from income to ownership, from labor to systems. From selling time to building things that do not require their continuous presence to keep producing value. That shift does not happen overnight, and it does not require quitting anything dramatically. But it does require seeing the trap clearly enough to stop defending it, because here's the part that most people find hardest to accept. The employee trap is not just economic, it is psychological, it is identity-based. After years inside a structure, the structure starts to feel like you. The job title becomes part of your self-description. The company becomes part of your social world. The salary becomes your benchmark for what you are worth. And when the structure that defines your identity is the same structure that is limiting your freedom, leaving it, or even seriously imagining leaving it, feels less like a financial decision and more like a threat to your sense of self. This is exactly why so many people who intellectually understand the trap continue to stay inside it. They can see the argument, they can follow the logic. But the psychological cost of dismantling the identity they have built around their employment is too high. And so they do what humans do with uncomfortable truths. They find reasons why it does not quite apply to their situation. Their job is different. Their industry is different. Their circumstances are different. And some of that is true. But most of it is the psyche protecting its own architecture from examination. The real trap is not the paycheck. It is the identity that grew up around the paycheck. Now think about what ownership actually means in this context. Not ownership of a specific asset type, not a prescription, but ownership as a principle, the idea that some part of your financial life is connected to something that produces value independent of your labor hours, something you built or accumulated or designed that continues to work in your absence. This could take 100 different forms. A skill set so rare and leveraged that it earns non-linearly. A creative work that generates returns over time. A business structure that does not require the owner's daily presence to function. An intellectual property. A reputation that creates inbound rather than outbound value. The specifics are almost irrelevant. The principle is everything. The principle is simply this. The path out of the employee trap does not run through working harder inside the trap. It runs through building something, anything, that operates on a different logic, something attached to output rather than hours, something that does not reset to zero if you stop showing up. This is where the compounding analogy becomes most powerful, because compounding does not care about effort, it cares about structure. A dollar placed inside a compounding system grows regardless of whether the person who placed it is working hard that week. The system does the work, the time does the work, the structure does the work, and the person who built the structure benefits from it continuously, not proportionally to their ongoing effort, but proportionally to the quality and patience of the design. Employment does not compound. Employment resets. Every Monday is structurally the same as the Monday before it. More hours traded, more money received, more months survived. The effort may be great, the performance may be excellent, but the structure produces the same outcome indefinitely because the structure itself never changes. The climax of all of this, the thing that once seen cannot be unseen, is that most people are not poor because they are lazy. They are not stuck because they are untalented. They're not failing to build freedom because they're doing something wrong. They are stuck because they're doing everything right inside a system that was never designed to produce freedom in the first place. The employee trap is not a mistake. It is a design that benefits from the labor, the reliability, the predictability of people who were never shown a different model, who were educated into employment as the destination rather than as one possible vehicle, who were given a map that ended at the job offer, as if arrival there meant the journey was complete. And the most disorienting realization is that the people who design this system, the people at the top of the organizations, the people who own the equity rather than trade the hours, they knew the map was incomplete. They simply were not required to hand you the rest of it. The transformation this requires is not dramatic on the outside. It does not require quitting tomorrow. It does not require a reckless leap into the unknown. It requires something quieter and harder, a change in what question you are asking. From how do I earn more to what am I building that does not require my continuous presence to grow, from what is my value to this organization to what is the value I am creating for my own financial future, From how do I get a better deal inside this structure, to what would a structure that actually serves my long-term freedom look like, and am I moving toward it? These questions do not have instant answers, but asking them consistently, seriously, with real intention, begins to change the decisions you make, the skills you prioritize, the time you protect, the small moves you make in the background of your regular life that begin slowly to build something that does not depend on showing up. Because freedom does not arrive all at once. It accumulates, it compounds, and it begins, always without exception, with the decision to stop seeing your time as the primary unit of economic value and to start seeing it as the most non-renewable resource you possess. There are a few principles worth carrying from all of this. The first is that the employment trap is not about employment itself. It is about believing that employment is the destination rather than a potential starting point. A job can be a useful tool in a larger financial design. What it cannot be, for most people, is the entire design. The second is that income and wealth are not the same category. Income is a flow. Wealth is a structure. Many people have strong income and no wealth because the income never stopped flowing through them and started accumulating into something lasting. The third is that time is the real unit of value in a financial life. Not money, not credentials, not titles. The person who understands this early enough starts making fundamentally different decisions about what to spend it on and what to protect it from. And the fourth is that the shift from labor to ownership does not require a single dramatic decision. It requires a direction, a consistent, patient orientation toward building things that compound in any form, in any domain, alongside whatever employment currently provides. Everything shared here is for educational purposes, a framework for thinking about patterns, not a prescription for any specific situation. Your own circumstances deserve your own research and your own counsel from people who understand them. But the question is worth asking, and it is worth asking seriously. How much of your financial life right now is attached to time you have already sold, and how much of it is quietly, deliberately, patiently building something that will still be working long after that time is gone? The trap is only a trap if you never notice the walls. Most people spend their entire lives rededicating themselves to climbing higher inside a structure they never chose to examine. The ones who eventually get free? They started by simply looking at it clearly.